When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ludlow, and enjoy today's episode. Hello, folks. Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast. Yeah, I know I'm not sitting at my table today. We have a different setup and an amazing guest as well. Welcome, Alana, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
And if you guys don't know who Alana is, I'm sure you know who Dean Stott is. Well, this is his wife, the better half.
Yes.
And so she's joining us here in Irvine at the studio. And we decided to not do the table today, but do more something comfortable because this is what they do on their podcast. So I'm like, hey, why not? Let's sit in some chairs and relax.
It works.
But we are here to make a big announcement on her behalf that she has a new book coming out. Actually, she has, how many books do you have now out?
There's 5 this year altogether. So 3 children's books, a business book, and memoirs book.
Whoa. So can you guys do that? Probably not. That's why she's doing it. Now raising the level of just the mindset behind Alana and why she does what she does. And she has this amazing book out called How to Ask for Money. And I think this is going to be a big deal. It is a big deal because she wrote it and she highlights amazing things about how to ask for money. And I hate doing that. I used to be a sales guy and I'm like, whoa, I think I need to read that.
Yeah. Asking for money is up there, I think, in the top 10 of people's greatest fears. And I hadn't actually realized that because I've been asking for money since I was a little girl, raising money for sponsored famines or whatever. So I've always asked for money. So a business colleague of mine had told me that asking for money was within people's greatest fears. So I said, I don't find it difficult. I spoke to him. And then after that conversation, I was like, maybe I should write this down to help people because it is an important factor. Some of the greatest people have the greatest ideas, the greatest missions, the greatest causes, but they can't get finance because it's a fear.
I had to put that next to the fear of speaking in public too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they all actually combine, the fear of speaking in public, this fear of asking for money, it's all to do with the great unknown. Mm-hmm. What is waiting for me on that stage? What is waiting? So what my book does, although it is called How to Ask for Money, it really goes into all those things. We talk about identifying motivations and about fear and how we can address our fear, because I think if we could, everyone has fear, doesn't matter who it is, we've got fear, but if we can address that fear, work out what is happening and try and counteract the nerves that a stage brings, I felt like this book will give you the best chance to overcome them.
So in this book, I've not read it, folks, so that's why I'm asking her the questions, because I've yet to read it, and I will read it. But there's so many people in the space that I work in security. They're really good field agents,
mm-hmm.
The men and the women out there that are good agents. But once you get in the industry for a little while, you're starting to ask to do contracts and stuff like that. It's a different animal running a business.
Mm-hmm.
And I've found me running my own security company, I'd say 90% of people are good field agents, but there's 5% of them that they're failing really hard and getting back up again and again, trying to figure out how they're running a business.
Yeah. The easiest way to, I have worked with some of the greatest people in the industry, in the security industry, and I've seen their companies fail because the management of the money isn't there. And it's especially in the world of security, because the value of what you guys do is life. That is what it is. So how do you put a value on life? How do you put that on? And I speak about that in great detail in the book. I work with special forces and people from around the world that have done incredible things. And then I could walk into their office and they've got maybe 5 to 10 unsent invoices, or they're unsure how to put a value on that invoice.
Right.
And then you'll talk through it and you'll say, look, what is it you done? Okay, I went and rescued a CEO from a kidnap situation in Colombia. Okay, so what would have happened if you hadn't done that? Well, he'd have been killed. What happens then? Well, the company goes down, his family are out of the home they're in, his employees are all out of business. When you start adding up the value that way, right, okay, so how much is it worth that you saved him? But it's very difficult to do after. It's very difficult to go in there and say, right, I want you to pay this bill after you're already safe. So I always say to Dean, he's not out the door until that invoice is paid. And for him, that mindset's super difficult because this person needs saved. I need to go and save this person. But to me, this is your business and you have to understand your own worth and your own value. And if you can't do that, have somebody else that'll do it for you. Have an employee that'll make sure that that's paid before you go anywhere.
And I suck at numbers. I hated numbers in math in college. I think, algebra.
Yeah.
And I just didn't. What I found going from my Marine Corps experience, you have to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you are in different things. And luckily enough, I found a few people on my team that are really good at Google Sheets, really good at spreadsheets and numbers, and I'm horrible.
Yeah.
If I had to do it by myself, I'd probably be in a negative right now. But you're so right. I mean, people know how to run a business, but they don't even know how to do invoicing.
Yeah. And I think understanding finance, I've worked in finance since I was young. It was something that I've always enjoyed working with, is numbers. That was always my thing. I loved maths in school. I loved accounting in school. And I love a spreadsheet as well. Dean will tell you, I do love a spreadsheet. So, we had a client once who came to us, and again, they didn't understand money. They were from a prominent family. They were receiving quotes for security, and they were like, these quotes are so varied. Why are they so varied? Anything from 2 million to 6 million, so somebody's put a high value and somebody's put a low value. Mm-hmm. Why are they so different for the same service? Is one better than the other? Is a person better than the other? I can't determine that, but what I can do is look at it and see where their figures are, where the average industry amounts are, where they could save. I'm not saying go with the cheaper one. I'm not saying go with the more expensive one either. Mm-hmm. One or the other doesn't reflect the level of service you're going to get. And that is almost automatically in those kind of worlds. Well, this guy's obviously better because he's charging 5 times as much. Mm-hmm. But we all know that the guy who's probably charging less has probably got more experience, just doesn't know how to charge.
That's a big good point. Really.
Yeah. Good point. So I kind of try and say that when I'm speaking to the guys, to say, look, is this guy charging 5 times as much as you, better than you? No. Okay, so you need to understand that when a rich person sees that, they think he's better than you because he's charging more. So
never thought about that. That's true.
You need to get up there. And understanding your value is a tricky thing to do. But I always get people to tell me what it is that makes them worth anything. Mm-hmm. And when you start adding those things up and seeing, well, there is people that do this, but they don't do this. There is people that do this, but they've never done this before. And the experience and everything else comes together, and actually you're valuable.
Very valuable. And I don't think a lot of people get that concept in the United States, especially in business. It's almost like, they're a good field agent, but they don't understand even their value of what to charge their client.
Yeah.
And they're charging them unarmed prices or whatever, and they just don't get it. And I think this is why many people in the audience need to pick up this book to understand the mindset behind that, and having the ability to do that and hire the right people to do that. Another thing I want to touch on is you are receiving an award in England on something. Can you tell the audience about that award?
Yeah, so I go back in July to collect my MB, which is member of the most excellent order of the British Empire. It sounds a bit well, but it was awarded for my services to vulnerable women and mental health awareness. That was what the award was for. So the mental health awareness was, as you've heard about Dean's bike ride, we raised $1.3 million for that. So that money all went to mental health causes. So we worked in that arena. It wasn't just about raising money. It was about working with the 11 nonprofits we worked with and learning a lot about mental health and there's a huge list of things that we achieved during that time, and I guess the waterfall effect. So I guess that was that side of it. And then the vulnerable women is my work within human trafficking and supporting sexual abuse and a number of other things in the field of helping women.
And the King's going to present that to you?
Yeah, I go to Holyrood Palace in Edinburgh for that.
I don't know if I've ever met anybody in my life that's accepted an award from a king, and you'll be the first guest to do that.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the Queen maybe, but
Oh, really? The Queen gave you an award?
No, not the Queen, but I'm saying there's a lot of awards given by the Queen. I think
that's
this is his first set of awards that he'll be given. Yeah,
and that'll be in July.
Yeah.
Whoa! Check that out, folks. That's so cool.
Thank you.
Congratulations! I know you have a heart for human trafficking women that have been human trafficked all over the world, and there's this part of you that does a lot of philanthropy for that and help them out.
Yeah, that was actually my reason for getting into close protection in the first place. Was back in 2010 when the Haiti disaster hit. I was approached by a friend of mine. I mean, I was always in the field of working with abuse survivors and anything to do with that arena since I was young, but when I learned a lot more about trafficking. And then in 2010, when Haiti hit, she approached and she said that when a natural disaster hits, it's a big time for traffickers to move in because kids are orphaned, there's vulnerable people around, so they'll move in quite quickly. So they'd already moved in and started setting up the orphanages. These are like under 5-year-old orphanages set up for trafficking hubs. She needed to go in to help these kids, and there was a price in her head. Straight away the traffickers put a price in envy trying to help. So, and it was like $5 to kill this woman. That was it. So she needed protection. And I called everyone I knew, and nobody would do it for less than like big bucks.
Wow.
And I was like, this can't be right. And people would say, well, like, the whole value thing, this is our job, Alana. They're like, well, this is what we do. We can't just do it for free. So I said to Dean, I need to be able to do that for free if somebody asks me to do it. So let's train. Dean was medically retired now out of the military. So we approached this company called Anubis, which was run by Ginge Johnson, who was an ex SAS guy from, like, he trained the Mujahideen back in the 70s and stuff. Really cool guy. So he took us onto a course, and it was a 4-week residential course. So it was a really intense course where it was awesome. You learned everything. And Ginge was pretty amazing because he would actually take me aside and show me things that the other guys maybe didn't need to know as much as what a woman in the field would know. And any course that I've done my close protection, I've done my ship security, company security. I generally am there has been other women, but I'm the only non-military one that I ever see. So that's always a little bit different. Pros and cons of that as well.
So you're like the Mrs. James Bond.
Yeah, could be.
That's pretty cool. Dean Stanton, Alana, James Bond, Mrs. James Bond.
Yeah, and our 3 little baby Bonds.
The baby Bond. Congratulations on the new one.
Oh, thank you.
How old is it, he or she, a girl?
She's 8 months now.
8 months, so
yeah.
You have them, they start growing.
Yep, fast. She's trying to walk right now, so she's...
How do you do it? I mean, you have like 3 different businesses going on. You're backing Dean when he's out on the field doing his thing, running the business from behind. I mean, how do you do it all? What's your secret to the success you're having? What powers you?
I've been raised to just never be idle, I guess. I think that I make it work, and we're a really cool family. Like the kids always fit in. Molly, when Molly was born, she's our eldest. We were getting into maritime security, so that was more a thing. So she used to come to yacht shows with us. She'd come to security shows. Harley was at the SHOT Show in January at 4 months old. Right. She was a great attraction. And if anybody's nervous about asking for money, by the way, bring a baby. Everybody wants to talk to you. Bring the baby along. Everyone talks.
That's smart.
So yeah, we've just made it work. Sometimes it's hard, but it's also about having a good support network. I've got some good friends, and I've got good people around me when I need it too. So. And
Dean's gone a lot.
Yeah.
He's always traveling. You're back there holding the fort down, holding the house down, managing the household.
Yeah.
And for Dean to have that type of loyalty from you, and you guys have each other's back, even though he's gone, providing for the family and all that. That's very powerful.
Yeah, it's if anybody who's in the military or offshore workers, whatever it might be, that you do have a cycle where he comes home, you have your kind of honeymoon period, then you're in it and you're settled in, then you're preparing for him going away again, and then he goes away, and then we've kind of lived that life for 14 years now. I'm not definitely not saying it's easy, because you do. I'm sure any woman who does it right now would recognize that you live a single life as a married person. So what I mean is you can't go to couples events because he's never really here, but you're not single, so you can't be doing singles events that people are doing. You're still, wife and mum at home. So you are living this interesting life, but the only way that it works is if you're both in it together and you're both understanding of what each other does. And that's the way that we've always lived it. So
how would you describe your personality differences?
Dean and I?
Yeah.
I'm the calm one.
You're the calm one.
Yeah. Dean would probably be more reactive than me. I'm very quiet. I'd say I'm the introvert. He's the extrovert. I listen a lot. He talks a lot.
He's good
at it. Yeah, he's great at it. And actually, do you know, it works. I write books. I love writing. That's my thing. But when it comes to maybe promoting the books, I'm a lot quieter. You could get me talking till the cows come home about human trafficking or about helping people, but talking about myself or what I do is a little bit less comfortable for me.
Why is that?
It's just not a subject that I think that is not that it's not that interesting, but I'd rather be talking about things that are doing world changing stuff than specifically talking about me.
I'm the same way. People when I ask to know my Marine Corps background, I was in the Marine Corps.
Yeah,
it's like, I think maybe it's a humility thing.
Yeah, I was raised by a Scottish family, and in Scotland we don't brag. It's not a thing that you do. It's really almost like uncouth to be proud of yourself, which is not a positive. You should be proud of yourself, and you should be. And definitely since moving to America, I've become better at it. Like if we'd had this conversation when I still lived in Scotland, I'd just be silent here, just let you talk about it, and I'd probably be like hiding somewhere. But I think the books that I write are all about something, about helping people or about making some sort of change. So I had to get to the point where I realized it was important to speak and to get it out there. So, but yeah, it works. I mean, we've been to like book shows, and Dean will just stand there and promote the books and talk about it, and I'll stand there quietly and let him. And it just works really well.
So you're the extrovert, he's an introvert, or is he
other way? He's the extrovert, I'm the introvert.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
The brain, you're the writer, the creative side, and then if you guys don't know this yet, She Who Dares is her next book coming out.
Yes.
I don't know if you can see that, but that's the next. What's the content of that one about?
So Relentless was Dean's book that we wrote about. So this is about his life and his journey through life, and then the bike ride, etc., etc. When his book came out and he did a lot of speaking, people would say, "When's Alana's book coming out?" And I'd always been writing, almost like a journal, I guess, on my life. Yeah.
Okay.
So I thought, yeah, well, why not? But then as we were writing it, I've obviously read Relentless, and I was like, this is my story, but it's in his book, but it's from my version. And so a lot of the stories are the same story. It's just, it is two different versions because it's from two different perspectives. So you can read both books about the same story, but it's two different perspectives on that story. And it's a book about my childhood. It's about sexual assault. It's about overcoming adversity. It's about life with Dean, challenges. It's got a number of things in it. But what's really interesting is when Dean read the book, there was a lot of it that he didn't know. And there was a lot of parts of it that he didn't know in the way that he read it. And it's actually one thing that I would probably say recommend to any couple is read each other's life stories, because you do see a different perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. And for the audience, if you're listening to this, you try to figure out what Elena's about. She's the machine. She's the mind behind the books. She has the creative side to her, and she's also a bodyguard. And she just, I don't know if you caught that in the podcast, but she's also a certified woman, lady bodyguard, a professional female. How do they dictate
we
that
call
name?
it close protection officers.
Close protection officer. Okay.
Yeah, I think they say bodyguard for the movies, I think.
Exactly. Good call. Good catch.
So, a protection officer to me, I'm not, as I say, I'm not military, I'm not special forces, I'm not, some mixed martial arts expert. It's about intelligence to me. I do everything I can to avoid any bad situations. So everything is about foresight and seeing issues before they ever come up. And a lot of what I do, especially now that I've got kids, and it's about advisory work. So I do vulnerability assessments, check on personal service, but to be honest, most of my work is centered towards the kids and families. So I do a lot of online protection and just keeping kids safe. That's and whether it be university travels and just doing travel advisory stuff and things like that. So and I think that's probably what I enjoy, because I know that is a huge worry for families, and it's an important part is keeping them safe.
I'm sure you deal with many royal families from Britain over there. I'm sure you have a lot of contacts that have asked you to do due diligence and do online protection for them and all that. Like you said, protective intelligence.
Yeah. So I'm an ambassador for CEOP, which is the Child Exploitation Online Protection, which is part of the NCA in the UK, which is your FBI here. It used to be SOCA in the UK. It's now the NCA, so National Crime Agency. And it's an online training course that I can train other people to then be able to train other people to just be safe online. So I can do it I could train parents, I could train teachers, but I can also teach the kids. So we can talk about with teenagers, and I can talk about with young ones about what to look out for, what to see. And I think that I'm really open about, rather than the best way that I would ever describe it is think about the play park when we were kids. When the guy with the flasher jacket was there, we told our parents, the police came, we got rid of them, and the playground was safe again. We didn't take the kids out of the playground and stop them from going. We got rid of that guy. That's how we done it. So the internet, when we're telling our kids to be safe online, the solution isn't to ban them from it or to take them away from it if there's a problem. The solution is to make sure that they're safe, and they alert us when the guy with the flasher mac's there. So the way that I teach kids is that to be open with their parents, and then I teach the parents how to receive that openness, because that's your moment in time. You've got that one time to not react, to listen, to understand, and then to deal with it. And I've got a daughter, she's 12 soon, and she's been approached 3 times on the internet. And you can imagine me and Dean are very, very safe. So if they can get to her, they're getting to your kid for sure.
That's crazy. Social media, Instagram.
Yeah.
All these different channels.
Well, I think there's something like, now don't quote me on this because I'm not up to date, but it's like 3,000 to 7,000 new apps opening up every day. And I do this exercise a lot with parents where I say, what apps are your kids on? And they'll do that. Instagram, TikTok. And then I'll do the same with the kids. And they'll maybe be like 10.
Wow.
And most of which the parents don't know about. So it's kind of just having that chat with them and understanding what they're on, and that they're going to probably download something new every day. And then there's a new version coming out, and there's constant different ways for people to get access to your kids. And the best way I see it is they'll always have access. You could put as many privacies and as many protections. They'll find a way, but it's just important that when they do come, your kid comes to you and tells you that they've come. Can you help me deal with this now?
Wow. I mean, there's so many different ways that predator can get a hold of the kid. And I've been hearing that there's something going through Instagram where people, or maybe it's Snapchat, I don't know, but I hear there's people trying to set up meetings that, McDonald's or whatever, off of Facebook or Instagram. People reaching out.
I mean, I think for for Molly, she's pretty switched on. So the kind of handsome looking 13-year-old kid that's the profile picture with lots of pictures on there of him in different locations to make it look genuine, messages and says, you know, you're super cute. I'd love to meet up sometime. You know, Molly just laughs and is like, Mum, like, look, yeah.
Seriously?
But, you know, you could imagine the 12-year-old kid that's getting zero attention from her parents, that learns everything from her peers, that doesn't know, isn't tech savvy, is maybe, and especially if she's been told that she's not allowed on that app and she's now on this app, this guy's contacted her, you're not going to tell Mum and Dad because I'm not even meant to be on this app. That's it. That's how it's happening.
So the predators are on the apps.
Oh gosh, yeah, they're on there.
There must be an underground network they communicate in or something. Is it for the trafficking side?
I mean, you could you could go and set up an account today with a fake profile picture and attract whoever you want to that account. There is dark webs, of course. There's dark webs, and I do courses on that too. So, but even just the basic, what we're all on, there's plenty of ways for them to get to them.
Crazy.
On that as well, and then they move them to the dark webs where you're definitely not going to be able to find them as a layman parent. So you want them coming to you while they're still somewhere that you can do your searches. But and like there's a million other things that they're doing. Sextortion, there's bribery, and you know, it's causing serious things, suicides, etc. are happening because of these practices that these people are doing. So it might not be a sexual thing, it might be money. And there's all sorts of things that are happening. Photos are being shared, images that, you know, if your child shares an image with someone, the child is the one committing the crime because they're sharing the images, and then that threat will be used against them that they're now a criminal. So you need to send more. Yeah.
Wow.
But I think the only, for me, the threats are out there everywhere. Communication is everything. Make your kid come to you with everything.
Wow. And I think that media does just justice for what you guys are doing. They're highlighting the Mexico border 24/7, all the human trafficking. That's just a fraction of it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You see, like, we've got traffickers coming in from Mexico, and we've got this happening in this country and this happening in this country. It's like, no, it's here. It's happening here. There's people on your doorstep doing it. It's happening in UK, Canada.
Globally.
There's not one country that escapes slavery or human trafficking. It's a big business, and it's about supply and demand, you know. So if it's basic economics, if there's a demand, there's going to be a supply. If there's a higher demand, they need to create more supply. It's a constant turnaround. So
especially at Super Bowl, any sporting event.
Yeah, and I guess with the sporting events, that's where we can highlight it more, because the sporting events are going to attract that supply and demand. But what's difficult about the sporting events is it gets the attention, then it goes quiet. It should be a 24/7 attention everywhere, schools, everywhere. Like, we should be talking about it. Trafficking doesn't get as much. And you know, if you were to sit Molly down here, she's not scared of trafficking. She's just educated in it. She's not. Exactly. I don't raise my kids to live in a life of fear.
Good job.
They live in, if you know, their hotels. Say, for example, they walk into a hotel room. Molly's always responsible for the door lock. She puts the doorstop underneath the door to make sure it's safe, but never in a fearful way. She's just been trained to do that all her life.
The family, mom and dad are this way.
They have fun, like they count the number of doors to the fire exit. So if there was a fire, it's their little fun thing to do. You know, so if there was a fire in the middle of a hotel in the middle of the night, you need to know how to get out, and you can't see. So counting the doors is their little fun thing to do, and then they'll give me the answer and I get to the room. So everything we do is about fun. And they check. And Tommy, when he gets on a plane, he checks his little safety sheet. He does his little thing. But yeah, I wouldn't think if you spoke to my kids, they're ever scared. They're just aware.
Confident. They're aware of their awareness. Wow, we just covered human trafficking, sports, and, you know, and I know the Chilean, I was talking to an attorney friend of mine down in San Diego yesterday. He told me about the new uprising of the Chilean gangs in Southern California. They're just taking over everything.
Oh, really?
And they're really heavily involved in human trafficking as well.
Yeah. I mean, trafficking is now the biggest business in the world. It's $150 billion a year.
$150 billion?
Yeah. And if I was to put that into context for you, the entire budget of the US Marine Corps is $46 billion.
Whoa.
So you're dealing with an industry that's 3 times the size of the US Marine Corps.
Crazy.
So yeah. And I guess they are coming away from the drugs, because if you get caught with heroin or cocaine, you're going to go to jail. It's happening. You're not going to be able to talk your way out of it. But if you get caught with a girl in your car, there's a lot of ways to talk yourself out, and she's probably not going to say anything either. So it's and she's worth just as much, if not more, as that kilo of cocaine that you've got there. And it's reusable. It is something that you can use a number of times, and there's a lot of money to be made. So trafficking of women and children especially it's big budget.
I had no idea. Wow. That's the GDP of some states. That's wild. And
that's who you're dealing with. So when you're dealing with an army of that size, or something of that size, it does take everybody to be aware and to be fighting it. And I think this is why I kind of always harp on about it, because awareness is everything. It's understanding what trafficking looks like, and understanding what to look out for, and understanding what you're funding and what you're not funding. And that's all. Just being aware and being able to help other people can end this, but it's going to take a worldwide.
Wow, that's wild. Just, it's the things that nobody wants to talk about.
Yeah. It's a business that's been running since the dawn of time. The Mesopotamia's days had slaves. We've always had slaves. There's always been the buying and selling of people since the start of humanity. So are we going to be able to end it? I think we'd have to change how humanity thinks before we can fully end it. But I think we can do a lot more. There's more slaves now than any other time in history. So
interesting. That's profound. There's more slaves than any time in history.
There's 46 million slaves estimated in the world at the minute. And it's not a race thing. It's not. It's nothing to do with anything other than power and money. That's what it is. So I think it's important to understand that scale of it, and that it's not something that's kind of confined to history or statues or whatever. It's happening today, right now.
And that's what you're most passionate about.
Yeah. And I think just awareness to have people to understand where to see it. If you're in a nail salon getting your nails done for like $10, there's a good chance that person's not being paid properly. So just keeping your eyes open to these types of things can.
And you'd categorize it maybe slave labor at that situation.
Yeah. So you do have, there's domestic servitude, there's forced labor, there's sexual slavery, and there's organ harvesting as well, which is also a big business. So there's a number of different areas. Obviously, my passion does run for fighting sexual slavery, which is something that I'm obviously vehemently against and want to fight constantly. But all of it funds it. So if we can get rid of all of it, things like pay people a fair wage. And I think the world we live in right now is very much about instant gratification. We want it all, and we want it now. There's no waiting for anything anymore.
Most impatient people live in America.
Yeah. And we are entitled. We believe that we should get it all right now. There should be no waiting. That mentality has funded the trafficking world hugely, because
never thought about that.
Where's your package from Amazon coming? How quickly does this need to be made? My great auntie Molly, she would be 99 this month. She died a couple of years ago, but you went to her wardrobe. She had this little wardrobe with like 3 pairs of trousers, a couple of winter tops, a couple of summer tops, one winter jacket. She had this little wardrobe. And I would say, do you want me to get you some new clothes? And she said, I don't need new clothes. This is all I need. I've got enough clothes for where now we've got like new clothes coming in Amazon every day. Like, these have to be made somewhere. They have to be, somebody's making this demand, keeping up with this demand. We don't need all the stuff that we've got. And when we're buying it, somebody's making it, and somebody's making it super cheap to make sure you're getting it for super cheap. So. Wow.
Yeah, you're right though. Instant gratification is it affects the younger kids. They're just programmed by, the WhatsApp threads and whatever social media they're on. They're just boom, 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 and they're just swiping.
Yeah.
And my nieces and nephews, they're we got to get that phone.
Yeah. And I think we give it to them a lot, I think, as well, because we work on our history. I was chatting with my daughter the other day and I was speaking about the very first pair of Levi jeans that I ever bought. And I remember working the whole summer. I was 12. I was working in this cafe and I worked every single day to raise this money to be able to buy this jeans because my other friends had these jeans. And I remember working the summer, and then as it was finished, I had enough to go and buy them. I walked into the store, I bought the jeans, and I was just so look, I'm even still talking about it now. I was so proud of buying those jeans. Whereas now it's like Amazon and they're there later on that day. And we're buying it. We're buying it for the kids. And I said to Molly, you'll never know that feeling if you don't earn it yourself.
Right.
So we really try and push that with the kids is let them have that feeling. It's a cool feeling to have.